Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 558.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about, well, what is a lot of people's favorite subject. That subject, of course, is money. Not just how to earn it, but most importantly, what do you do with it once you have it? And are there really as few options as you would believe? In fact, today's guest would even go so far as to say that you could build, earn, make wealth without Wall Street. In fact, that's also their website, Wealth Without Wall Street. What gets me excited about that is the fact that having completed hundreds of real estate transactions and raised tens of millions of dollars and been in the real estate world for quite some time, I've never used a bank loan myself. But what's interesting is that I think that they have other ideas that will help you and I also set our capital, our ideas, our minds, if you will, free. What gets me excited, though, is sometimes the components that we need in order to make that happen isn't necessarily more knowledge. It can't be taught, but it can be caught if we are hanging around the right people. And I think today we're going to meet two of the right people. I'm, of course, talking about Joey Mure and Russ Morgan. Now, these two individuals, as I said, when it comes around to helping individuals, they are committed. They have the podcast. They've been the financial planner. They've also been the mortgage guy. They've been in the real estate industry for quite some time and the financial industry as well. What this means is that they've had insight to what people do with their money, right and wrong. What this means is that they know how to help you and I become more efficient with it. So here's what you and I are going to do right now. We're going to get ready to listen, love, and learn from Joey and Russ. Guys, how you doing?
We're fantastic, man. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, what an amazing intro. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you very much. You guys make it easy when, well, you do stuff that I know. You know, that's what I like. That's what I like. Now, before we get too far deep into this, one of the things that I have to do is I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else. You ready?
Yes,
Absolutely.
do it.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Spider-Man, Hulk, Batman, Superman, etc. Because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, if you think about it, as an entrepreneur, I can easily envision myself flying around town, using our products and services, and saving customers one sale at a time. And yes, I'm probably wearing a cape at that moment. Also, though, like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, there was a time when he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking photos, because he just wanted to have enough money to take Mary Jane on a date. That was it. Then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers that he's got a superhuman ability, and well, he has to choose. You know, am I going to use this ability for good or for evil? So my question to you guys is, before Wealth Without Wall Street, before, Russ, you were the idea guy and Joey the stallion, before all of those things, before mortgage, before financial planning, before the things that everyone knows you for today, what we want to know is, who is Russ Morgan and Joey Mure?
Well, you know, you mentioned superheroes. So when I was a kid, one of my favorite uncles used to give me green Tic Tacs, but he called them Hulk pills. and that was something. Every time I saw him, he wanted to give me a Hulk pill, and I knew that forever. And it's an amazing thing. And that imagination, I think, has always been a part of my background. Is envisioning something bigger or better than where I am. So I grew up literally. My parents divorced when I was a really young child, and so my mom, knowing that she was going to have to raise my sister and I, who was 6 years older than me, went back to school, went to college, and completed about 2 years worth of coursework in a year and 1 quarter. But during that time frame, she had to basically let my sister, who was in the 8th grade, me in the 2nd grade, manage herself. And I just remember just imagining ways to help her. And one of the things that I did as a young kid is I came up with $10 for her graduation. I walked equivalent about 1.5 miles as a 7-year-old kid down a busy freeway to get her two little fake crystal candle holders. And when she realized that I had done this, when she opened this present, that was like the thing that has always been kind of a motivating. So for me, it's always thinking back to how do I imagine to help my mom? How do I help others? And just from a young age, motivation has always been my key.
Wow. I'm sure she probably burst into tears and was a mess on that one.
She really was. I mean, literally. I mean, I think how did I come up with the $10? And I'd be honest, I don't even know. But more importantly, to know that me and my other little 7-year-old buddy walked down this major freeway in order to get to the mall. I think when she realized that happened, it was all that culminated into a lot of tears, I think.
Wow. Got it. Okay. All right. That's you.
Yeah. So I'll jump in and mention, I think you're also talking about superheroes. I think of the unconventional superhero that was huge for me growing up was the Italian Stallion, right?
Come
Rocky
on.
Balboa.
Are you serious? Are we really going here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dude, come on. I mean, that's what they call me on the show.
Okay.
I actually had in high school a 66 Mustang with on the front of it, the Italian Stallion.
Of course.
So I've been living this for a long time, but it really started. I mean, you think about who Rocky Balboa was. I mean, this guy came from nothing. He was kind of behind, or he was the underling, right? I mean, he's sitting here having to fight Ivan Drago, right? I mean, this guy is the big bad Wall Street, if you will, right?
Sure.
And he's taking him on head on. And I don't, again, this is not a perfect analogy by any means, Jay. I don't mean to minimize Rocky Balboa, but I was the Italian kid growing up. And I remember distinctly, this is just one of those moments that kind of defines who we are as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people. My dad, my mom saying, you know what, we really want more for you. We want you to go to school, but you're on your own. By the way, we don't make any money. They work for the Salvation Army, which is fantastic. I mean, they make an impact in other ways than dollars, right, in people's lives, which that's been a huge part of who I am. But the other part was, hey, we have no money, and you have to do this on your own. And I remember, I'm probably 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, something like this, and having my dad have that conversation. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to make this happen. So how do people go to college without money? Well, you got to get a scholarship, right? And so I just remember making it okay, I'm going to be so dialed in on my education that I'm going to get a scholarship. I don't even know how the end works out exactly, but I'm going to be the best I possibly can. And I remember in 5th grade getting a B for the first time. And going home and crying, thinking, okay, I've messed up my opportunity to go to college. Nobody's going to take me with a B in 5th grade. Well, obviously, 5th grade doesn't count in terms of that whole deal. And so I learned that after the fact. I was like, man, I wish somebody would have told me that before I went home crying. But, all through middle school, high school, I excelled, ended up being valedictorian of my high school. And that afforded me a free ride to the university that I went to here just south of Birmingham, Alabama. And it was kind of like that final, wow, I did it. Like I defeated Yvonne. I made it to college.
Right.
And so anyway, again, I'm not the Italian stallion, the Rocky Balboa, but that's who I would kind of, picture myself.
Got it. And you are definitely the first to even mention Rocky as a superhero out of the hundreds of people that I have asked this question to. So
now, a lot of people would agree with you, though, now that you said it. They'd be like, of course, man, he's like America's superhero, like not Captain America, but Rocky Balboa.
Right. No, and when you put it that way, it totally, it makes sense. And I think something interesting from what both of you have said that I think is applicable for nearly every entrepreneur, like for you, Russ, when you're, and because this is so true, it didn't matter to you. Your safety was irrelevant. How you got the $10 for the candles was irrelevant. None of those things, because entrepreneurs ask this all the time. I want to start a business. That's how it starts. They have an idea, and then the first thing they go is, where am I going to get the money from? That was not something you were willing to let limit you, because making your mom happy or doing something for your mom was way more important. You just did not care. In fact, your friend probably came along and didn't even know why, and it didn't matter. He was there because you enrolled him in that process. And Joey, you were given a gift so early, because oftentimes when we want to go somewhere, we fail to take inventory of where we are. And again, that's the thing. Entrepreneurs will constantly go, well, this is the year that I'm going to make, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever it is. But your parents gave you the gift of knowing, hey, here's what we see for you. Here's the vision. We have no clue how you're going to get there, because we don't have the resources, but we believe it can happen. And I think that's like an amazing thing. And I don't know if either of you have ever thought of it that way, but that's what I hear.
Oh yeah, no, that you're right on. It's amazing how you hear those stories, and you're applying it to what, like, now we know as entrepreneurs and business owners, it is exactly what you're saying.
Well, and I've heard that too. Like what you've learned by the second or third grade is literally the way that you process life as an adult. And you're right. Like that ability to say, okay, here's my vision. I'm going to attack it. Or, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to get there, but you're right. I'm going to definitely enroll other people in it, because I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to use imagination to create. We're going to make this thing happen. Don't tell me that I can't walk 1.5 miles across the freeway. I'm going to do it. Don't tell me I can't start a business. I'm going to do it.
Correct. And those are the things that don't matter. I mean, at that moment in time, Now, I've got some questions here. Take us on a quick abbreviated version of the journey. How do we go from giving your mom, the candles or candle holder, I think it was, and having having a meltdown over a B in the 5th grade, all the way to wealth without Wall Street? How does that happen?
Yes, I think for me, that part of like creating a vision. I mean, I think of my mom, and I literally told her, I watched her work so hard early on. I told her this was a vision, Jay, that I'm going to own storage facilities in my young 30s, late 20s, whatever it may be, and I'm going to have a place for you that you're going to be able to work, manage, own, we're going to build this thing. There's the vision. I'm going to take care of Mom. And so from a young age, my brain always was thinking, how can I create something, a business or whatever, an investment opportunity. And for me, that was all right, well, I got to learn about money. So that's why I got into the traditional financial planning world. It didn't take long for me to figure out that world didn't work the way that I was taught.
Preach it, bro.
A lot of ups and downs. But at the end of the day, it was, entrepreneurship, ownership, it all fell in line with, first, how do I help mom, how to take care of her, which, by the way, we don't own any storage facilities and she's not working them. But, it all was based upon that vision.
Understood. Got it. Joey?
And for me, from going into the seeking education as a solution to the problem, really was what it was for me, is like, okay, how do I get to the end, which I've been told, okay, well, college, having a degree, being the first in your family to have a degree, this is the end goal. I gotta put everything behind this. That really didn't necessarily lead me to this end, except that it showed me that what was possible, right? That I do have no limit on what can be possible. And that my experience in college led me to really seek out mentors at that time that ended up guiding me, directing me to say, you know what, there are ways in the business world that you can be impactful, you can have impact. And I think that's the part that I borrowed from my parents as well. Their involvement with the Salvation Army is all about impacting people's lives. But they were these mentors now were sharing from that standpoint, you can do that through business ownership. You can do that through the business world. And so I started to kind of navigate. I love math. And they said, man, here's the mortgage business. So I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. And I transitioned into that right out of college and spent 11 years doing it excellently, growing a team. I had 25 loan officers when I finally gave it all up and was doing over 20 loans a month personally, working about 172 hours a week, it seems like. But that led me to then working with Russ as a client first and learning I want my money to do something differently. I'm making a lot more money than I anticipated I would be making at this age, but it doesn't seem to be working like the way that I anticipated. Once you start making more money, it should start growing faster and all these things. Well, those things weren't working out, and so I needed alternatives. That's where I met Russ.
Now, Russ, I have to ask the question because I mean, I know why I made the choices that were made, but when it comes down to the concept of wealth without Wall Street, you at this time were the ultimate representative of everything they stood for. What is it why the name? There's a reason you guys felt strongly enough to go, this is what we're leading the market with. What is it that we find when it comes to wealth without Wall Street?
Jay, I think success leaves clues, right? You look and see what other people are doing with money. And that's, I guess, one of the benefits I had as being the typical or financial advisor is that I got to see what a lot of people were doing with money. And even though, my job was to sign them up to the Wall Street game, right? To get them in the 401k, the IRA, the mutual fund, the stock, whatever it may be. That was my job. And they would always put a little money there. But when I really would dig underneath the surface, I'd see where the real money was being made. And it was never in that. And so for me, one, I knew the wealth was without Wall Street. But to be honest, when the market crashed in 2008 and I was sitting there, like Joey said, looking toward mentors, my mentors all had their palms up to the sky too. Like nobody knew. Like nobody knew. Of course, soon after all the marketing came out and they gave you a reason how to combat it for the next trip. But the reality is nobody knew what was going on. And that immediately told me I can't be a part of this. Like my job is to help people. And if I don't know, and the people that I look to for knowledge don't know, this is not the game. And it all kind of started to fall into place as I started seeking new mentors that, man, the wisdom is in wealth and the wealth is without Wall Street.
Okay. So if we're not going to use Wall Street, then what are we going to do? Yeah.
Well, when I see like real estate, right? Business ownership, private lending, those became like the three like asset classes that was the most prominent in the clients I was working with. And it ultimately became like, how do I get there? And, is there better strategies to handle my cash and my cash flow? And why are these guys all talking about using these life insurance contracts as a way to buy this real estate or to invest through their business? And man, I'm telling you, it was a windy road there for a little bit, and I was kind of a Joey called me a country bumpkin earlier at a place, right? I didn't know what I didn't know, but I was willing and able to listen, and
right.
And so those were the answers.
Yeah, but hold on one second. You said real estate, business ownership, and private lending. Let me play, for lack of a better term, devil's advocate for the person who isn't here right now, doesn't have the microphone, and can't ask. I mean, I think they would push back and say, but all that requires money. I don't have money right now. How do I build wealth without Wall Street? Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do, get some of your time back, is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary.
So I think you have to start with the very first two. So what Russ is talking about, we have 5 pillars of Wealth Without Wall Street.
Got it.
And I think if you think about them in a logical step-by-step, the first one starts with keep more of the money that you make, and that's cash flow, right? Which just happens to be the name of your podcast, right? Cash Flow Diary. So we didn't make that up for this show. I promise you. Okay. And that has to do with, okay, where am I unnecessarily spending or losing money that I didn't realize was the case? So for instance, we employ tax strategies to hold on to more of the money that we're making and not to send that to the IRS without thinking first about, is there a strategy I should be employing here? So we have clients that came to us paying over $100,000, $200,000 in taxes, saving 30, 40, 50% of those dollars now that they were, again, was right under their nose the whole time. So that's one place that people can find cash. The second would be debt strategies under that cash flow pillar, if you will. How do I pay off debt? Those things are necessary to have at certain times, but how do I then get those debt strategies in line to help me, not just the big banks and Wall Street?
Well, and I think a part of that too, Joey, is that, and we found this out very early on, Jay, is that the strategies and efficiencies that the wealthy use are, one, they understand other people's money. So you mentioned, well, I don't have any. But as you know, and you said that, I mean, most people buy real estate all the time and they never use their own, right? But they have to understand the processes. Maybe they have to be in the right credit position. So yeah, paying down debt and being in a good credit position is a wonderful thing. But really, people separate their money all the time. They give it away. I was on the phone today with a guy that has a CPA background, owns manages like 300 different rental properties for the company that he works for. That's his job, to go evaluate properties, buy them, manage them. Yet he still on an annual basis is sticking $30,000-$40,000 a year into these qualified plans that he comes out and says, I know nothing about.
Whoa. What? I mean, I think I heard what you said, but I'm like, what?
Yes, exactly. But really, most people, they follow that herd. They separate themselves from cash. And so when they say I have no cash, the reality is they don't have access to cash. They've put their cash in places that they can't use and in places they don't know. And so our number one approach to everything is invest in what you know invest in yourself because that's who you know the best. And literally the best investment you'll ever make is in that. And if you can create that into a business, even better.
You know, there's something that you just said right there when you said you separate them, when we separate ourselves from cash, that I think is very important because there's and I don't know, maybe you agree, disagree, but it seems as though there's, and I don't want to call it a conspiracy, but there's a common thought of, you know what? You don't know what to do with your money, so give it to me. Does that make sense?
100%. Or you're not smart enough.
Right.
So they've confounded the entire investment process by putting different terminology and jargon out there
that gets
as
under my
marketing
nerves. That
against
gets so
and a
under my skin.
reason to say you just don't know enough. Let us handle it for you. And it's the biggest lie that we've been fed, and we buy it. I mean, as a whole, our country buys it hook, line, and sinker.
And that gets on my nerves every time because it's like you didn't need to use such a complicated term when what you're describing is simply return on investment.
Yeah.
You know, you're just saying, hey, this is how much money you get back. You don't have to use a 12-syllable word to mean that. Anyway, I'm about to get triggered here in a minute. That was, yes. And what's worse is that oftentimes one can be made to think that it's impossible to learn so many words or terms and things. I started, and I wish people were there to actually see me. What I started doing is I literally started, anytime someone said a word, and again, it's the same stuff Mom always said, but I went to Investopedia when they first came out. Anytime they said a word, I'm like, I don't know what that is. It was a long list, and it took a while. And all I did was look them up and go, oh, that's what you meant? And I kept finding myself doing that. It's like, oh, well, why didn't you just say that? Over and over and over again. So when it comes down to it, when you guys over there at Wealth Without Wall Street, when someone comes to you, why do they typically seek you out? What do they find when they get in there? What problem, ultimately, are they looking to solve?
It typically is, what do I do? Right? I mean, they know that what they've been trying is not working. They know that
that's easy to see for everybody right there. They're like, wow, this didn't work. But what else?
No, be honest though. A lot of people want to be told what to do, and I think that is a product of our education environment that we literally have been following these rules, and so we assume we have to follow some other rule. So most of the people that come to us are like, okay, I know what I've been told is not working. What do I do? And be honest, we just sit down and the simple conversations that we have with them, Jay, is like, what do you know? Like just today, like that conversation I was having with the guy that has a CPA background who, as his job, manages over 300 properties. He has a real estate license. His job is to go pick out properties, commercial buildings, and buy them and manage them for the corporation that he works with. But yet he's still separating the majority of all his cash into an environment that he doesn't know about. Well, so it's like,
there's something you said there that I also want to, because I was like, and I'm curious to see where you guys sit and feel. Having been the financial planner, very, very similarly to like you're talking about, I refuse to use, at this stage, I just refuse to use qualified plans. It's just like, no. Just no. Between their illiquid nature is so limiting for so many people. I think I don't know, maybe I'm being a little extreme, but if we actually did away with qualified plans and forced people, that would be like the wake up call. Look, no more qualified plans. Now you have to figure it out, and I think that would help everybody. What do you guys say?
I agree 100%. So coming from the background of finance, everybody at some point has probably bought something, most likely their house, right? When you sign the mortgage paperwork, on there somewhere, it tells you what the interest rate is, true?
Well, it tells you a number that you think is the interest rate for sure.
That's right. It gives a number, right? It puts something on there. Now, there's a lot more fine print in there that goes into that. But really, the reality is that if instead of that number, they put 3 letters, TBD, would you ever sign that paperwork?
Right. No.
Never.
No.
So when somebody broke that down as simply it is for me, like you said, the giving up access to money and all that stuff to me is vital, and that's a deal killer. But some people actually see that as a benefit. They think separating the money, hey man, I'm going to spend it if I have it, yada yada yada.
They don't trust themselves.
But at the end of the day, when we don't know how much of it we're going to get back because we don't control those terms, it is truly TBD of how much I'm going to pay in tax when I get it back. Like that is at the ultimate, like, why would I ever put money in there? And it is, I mean, like I've heard you say on your podcast in the past, like, we follow what people do and we assume that's the better strategy. But at the end of the day, like, we need to find ways to follow our own gifts, our own talents. And maybe it's, man, I need to develop some. So you ask, what do we do? Yes. One, we get them in a great cash position. Yes. And secondly, we help surround them in community with people that might drive their passions, whether we find out, are they detail oriented or are they business oriented? And then we help build those passions so that way they can invest in those things.
Well, and one thing that you mentioned, Jay, that we didn't really answer was, what is the problem that we solve?
Sure.
And I think the issue that we keep hearing people coming to us looking for an answer is, how do I quit trading time for money?
Preach it.
Because
now you're talking my language right now. You get me all kinds of excited.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do I get out of this position where I'm trading time for money? And if you think about that in light of what we just said about qualified plans, it does not help us get any closer to answering that question. So thus the reason people are saying there's got to be a different way. How can I put money away for the next 30 years or 40 years with no access and get any closer to the real problem? And that is, I want more freedom, time freedom, geographical freedom. I want to travel more with my family. Whatever that itch is that you're trying to fulfill, it doesn't get there with qualified plans.
You are so, like, speaking my world, my language right now, because that's the gift that I was given. That's what I tell people today is I was given the gift because my wife was unable to eat or drink when she's pregnant, because I had a punctured lung, because we were squatting in bank-owned property, because all of the traditional things of go to school, get good grades, get a job were not available. We were forced to find a way to earn money without us physically participating day to day, over and over and over again. And it's not like I grew up at the dinner table being taught passive income and strategies, et cetera, and how to build or control or create an asset and sell it into the marketplace, which I think is the thing that I want more people to hear. Is it's a learnable skill. It's a teachable skill. And there's a process to it. And there's no reason to not start today, regardless of age. And I just think it's amazing that but in all of our cases, when I look at your story, all of our stories, it takes some traumatic event to wake us up and actually go, well, what else is there? When the proof is kind of in front of us today. So I'm curious to know, when you guys look at the marketplace, today, when you or someone in your community is out there trying to figure out, which way they should go, how do you help them make that determination? Like, what do they start with?
I think what we've done is we've tried to break it down very simply and say, bring the future to the present in some cases, where people are thinking in light of, okay, is this my goal? Is my goal more time freedom today? Well, then why would my plan go counterintuitively to that end and say, you need to defer all of that freedom that you're talking about for the next 25 or 30 years? It doesn't take much for us to just go ahead and just break that down, number one. Number two is we give them, we call it the hierarchy of wealth, right?
Okay.
If we think about, maybe you remember that psychology class that you took that talked about Maslow's hierarchy of wealth,
right?
Or hierarchy of need, right?
Correct.
It starts with the very basic need of food and water. Then it moves into then security, or like shelter. And if you don't have food and water, you really don't care where you live. You're really more focused on just filling your stomach, because that's survival at that point. Then and only then do you think, okay, well, where can I lay my head tonight? And then you move up this ladder up until you get to self-actualization. Well, the way we think about wealth is very similar to that. And it starts with cash and cash flow. And we say, if I don't have cash or cash flow, just like you said, this is like the primary thing that I have to solve in order for me to ever invest. Because if I don't have access to capital, then the greatest investment in the world could go under my nose and I'd never see it. Because I don't think it's for me. It's for somebody else that does have cash and availability of funds. So even though I may have $500,000 sitting in a 401k, those big opportunities are going under our nose every single day. So we start with cash and cash flow. We happen to use cash value in whole life insurance policies and under the infinite banking concept.
Yep.
But that, regardless, you have to start in a cash position. Then we move into things that you control. And that's going to be things like your own business, your own education, being able to invest in yourself. And your number one investment would be a business that you own and control. And then from there, we move into collateralized assets like real estate and or lending. That's why those are the pillars, 4 and 5 of our 5 pillars. And then from there, we would say the top tier is 100% speculation. And really, most of our clients never, ever step into speculation because that's really where you lose all control and you take on all the risk. And that's really the stock market. If you want to sum it up, it's pure speculation. It's a hope strategy. And we don't have to hope when we have these other tiers in place.
100%. I mean, I definitely appreciate what you guys are doing. For those that have listened this far and want to find out more about what you guys got going on, what's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you?
Yeah, hopefully you'll follow her on our podcast, Wealth Without Wall Street, but you can get access to that from our website, which is wealthwithoutwallstreet.com.
And just something we're talking about pre-show, Jay, is that if you are a part of this kind of mindset, trying to make a shift personally, and you want to join a community of other people that are doing this all across the country, we just launched our national community. It's community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. You can go and join there, and it's just a monthly subscription. So if you don't like it, you can totally get out of it. But we're finding people are really connecting and learning. It's a way for them to get access to these 5 pillars to learn what we're talking about, because it can be overwhelming, knowing where to start and all those sort of things. Right. And it's just a great way for people to be around other people.
I also think they intend for it to appear as overwhelming.
Oh, 100%.
Again, I don't want to go down some tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, but I'm just saying, in general, I think that was a part of somebody's plan somewhere. I'm not saying who, can't even point any fingers, so don't be coming after me. Don't send me no emails. I'm just saying, in general, it can feel that way, and I get it. Now, as we wind down, I've got a final question for you because I'm really curious to hear your answer, because there's a number of people who have been listening this far, and they started this call possibly in a completely different mental state, emotional state, financial state, feeling like there was no hope. There was nothing but confusion. It was an impossible sea, a morass of information that they could never understand. But yet now they've listened. They've heard, wow, these are nice guys. They sound approachable. They sound like human beings, and they would treat me right. And all of that stuff is what they've heard. And maybe now they're at what I like to call the precipice of decision. It's that point where you draw that line, or that proverbial line in the sand, where you say, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go in this direction. Now, gentlemen, like I know, when it comes to human beings and changing our habits and doing something that's new, we often have a companion when we get to this precipice of decision. And that precipice, oh man, it can appear to be scary. And the companion comes in the form of a voice, and it reminds us of things like why it didn't work last time. And are you you're going to do something for that's not a 401k? Are you okay? I mean, don't you understand it? I mean, that's why the government put it there for you. You're literally going to try to build your own retirement, and it's going to instill doubt. And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're actually going to follow through and do what you say, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. Gentlemen, what should they do?
Right now, go to community.wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. You join that community. You see other people doing it.
Right.
People follow the herd, and it's Simon Sinek has the circle of safety talk that he talks about, where when people are willing to take risks as long as they know there are other people out there taking it, and that's
right.
what suckered us into the wealth with Wall Street mindset, and for us it's like surround yourself with people to know that you're doing the right thing, but follow people that are actually breaking that mold, that feel and look a lot like you. And what we have found in that community is that when people start sharing their stories, and it's stories of the guy who's starting with $10,000 a year to try to create this, is all the way up to the person making $5 billion a year. But it's the guy who we interview on the podcast who had 11 homes when we met him 2 years ago that now has 64. It's the story of the guy who invested in a business that's worth $600,000 and then in 2 years it's worth $5.5 million. It's those kind of encouraging things that says I can do it too. And be honest, you just have to surround yourself with people. The old saying that your net worth is in your network, and this is the network.
100%. I like it. I've often told people that there's people who know what to do, but don't know who to do it with. And then there are people who know what to do things with, but don't know what to do. And you've got to learn to bring all of that together at the same time, and in order to make it work. And I definitely appreciate the effort. I mean, that you guys you're putting in there, what the lives that you are changing, the work that you're doing. And because I know personally, it's not easy, and it's not always filled with a whole bunch of thank yous. But at the same time, it's what drives us. It's what's necessary. And I just want to be the first to say thanks for, taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the CashFlow Diary.
Man, it's been our pleasure, Jay. Yeah, it's easy to come on a show like yours because we are like-minded. You've already been breaking the mold of Wall Street personally, and you're helping people to see a whole different world every time they turn this episode on, this podcast on. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Thank you for sharing the message as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. When? Now. Why? Because you already know that what you're doing isn't working. I mean, dude, just pull up your, 401k report. You've seen it. The number doesn't look good. That's why you don't look at it. Now you can do something about it. Take that control. You can learn. You have learned, and you can make it better than what it currently is. What you're starting with, completely irrelevant. That you get started, the most important thing you can do today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.